G'day ladies and gents, and welcome to the Warhammer Chaosbane beta. Warhammer Chaosbane is a new action RPG in the style of Diablo that will be coming out very soon, so for those of you who don't have phones, this may just hit the spot. Today's video is not going to be a review, we are just going to have a look at the gameplay over two of the characters that are available at this point. I've put in probably 4 or 5 hours into the game on each character type to get the levels up at this point, so I've had a fairly decent look around, but we are going to have a look at a couple of the menus beforehand, because there is a couple of little things in here that are worth taking a peek at prior to having a look at gameplay. So, first things first, the difficulty options. Very important in these games, and you have a lot of them. You have very easy, which I do not recommend anyone plays on. In fact, anything under normal is outright boring. The game is so easy to complete. I'm playing on hard at this point in time because I just want a bit of a laid-back play, but for those of you who like a little bit more of a hardcore experience, you have very hard, chaos, and then you have increasing ranks of chaos, up to chaos 4. This is insane to try and play on, but very fun if that's what you're after. I'm just going to keep mine on hard. Now, the options is the second area I want to look at, because there aren't many. Graphics options. That's it. You can change the brightness, you can change the size of the HUD, you can change the map transparency, and you can change the fonts for the damage. Although this isn't actually a main thing, like a major issue. The game doesn't really require much in the way of graphics options, so I'm not too concerned here. Game options is pretty much the same. It's whether or not you want information or not. Yeah, fair enough. Audio options, exactly what you would expect. Voice, sound effects, and music, but the big one is in the controls. This is your control setup. Player 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is, keep in mind, on PC. This is very console-based here. So, what are our options? Well, type 1, keyboard and mouse, obviously. PlayStation controllers, and Xbox controllers. That's the entirety of your options. There is no customization. Kicking controller up here just allows you to assign the controls to a particular player. But that's it. That is all your control options. No key customization available in the beta at this time at all. I hope they do add it. Not that the controls are particularly bad, but the fact that there is no option whatsoever to change them is, well, it's not a deal breaker, but it becomes awfully close. Anyway, so exit backing out of here, we have a couple of characters to choose from. So we're just going to quickly go to new. So in-game, you'll have the option of 4 different characters. You have the Imperial Soldier, which I actually didn't want to do that. Go away, I've already got a character for him. New. Let's try that again. Imperial Soldier. This is your basic tank, hack and slash, so on. High Elf Mage, your mage character, magic, fireballs, dragonfire. Very fun character to play, borderline overpowered in honesty. And then you have 2 additional characters which are currently locked, so I can't say anything about what they'll play like. But you have the Dwarven Slayer, looks kind of like the Barbarian Berserker from Diablo as far as I can tell, but as I said, we can't see any of the skills. And the Wood Elf Scout, which reminds me from what I've seen so far of the Demon Hunter from Diablo 3, but again, no information on exactly how they perform, no information on the skills. The character is currently locked. It's not available. So, let's go and check out the gameplay, shall we? Alright, so as I said, I've already put in a few hours into the game. We're going to start off with Velen, who is our Imperial Soldier. Now, this is the barracks. Whenever you rejoin the game, you get access. This is the point that you spawn in, and it has your stash. Currently, I can't see any reason for the stash to exist. All the items that drop in-game are related directly to the character you have selected, so there's no reason to store anything like there was in Diablo for potential usage for other characters, and you don't get any alternate weapons drops. This guy is always sword and board. But that doesn't mean that's the way it's going to stay. The fact that the stash exists at all makes me think that you're likely going to get weapons drops for other character classes in the future. The loot tables are going to change, and you may get access to other weapons as well. I have seen a hammer start popping up, but it's a one-handed hammer that just straight up replaces the sword, but no two-handed weapons or anything along those lines. So I'm assuming the loot tables are currently restricted to just whatever the main options for the character are, and will not include any other character classes at this time, and that's going to change on release, or at least I hope it does. Otherwise, I see no reason for the stash to exist, as you're always going to be using your best gear, and that's kind of sad. Anyway, this is the main quest hub. Now, I'm going to be doing a quick skip here, because to get into the dungeon, we have to trigger off the next part of the storyline. So, I'm going to do that now, and we'll get over to the fighting. Alright, so, welcome to the dungeon, or I should say a dungeon. It's one of many. So, first things first, the actual environment design is really well done. It's actually really beautiful. I really like the environments we're playing in here. That being said, there is a little bit of repetition, although it makes sense in context of the story. We are supposed to be in the sewers of a city. Bloody Nurglings. And we have a larger Chaos Demon. This should be a little bit fun. Charge is done. I'm trying to get rid of all the smaller demons here so we can start working, and the cultists here so we can start working on the greater demon, run out of the circle. The demon here has essentially 3 attacks. The first one is a massive swipe, like that one there, that knocks you back and stuns your character, slowing your movement speed. The second one, he sticks his tentacle into the ground, and it will explode out from underneath you, poisoning you and stunning you as well. There. And the third one, they're stunned, so I'm not going to get out of it. When you kill them, they explode and poison everyone that's in range. We got a couple of blues there, so that's okay. Like most ARPGs, the mobs tend to come in a couple of different sizes. Your smaller mobs generally only have 1 attack type per the mob type, and they'll tend to swarm you with those attacks. Then there is a slightly larger set which comes in the form of cultists, which have a melee attack, and some of them also have a ranged poison attack. And then you come up to demons like this big bastard, which come up to 3, and so on and so forth. Ow. We're out of the circle. I got a little stuck on something there. There is some terrain issues. It's particularly noticeable with the Mage, which I'll show you when I switch over to the Mage character, where various movements, spells, and attacks can actually get stuck on terrain. And there's a stun. Let's get in and finish him off. And I'm gonna... Oh, no, I managed to make it out of the explosion. Okay. Get these barrels over here too, and looks like some more Nurglings coming through, so we can swipe them down. So at this point in the game, I've only had 1 major boss battle, and it was relatively complex. I wouldn't say difficult so much. As I said, I play on hard mode for a relaxing playstyle. If you really want to find a challenge, you've got to turn it up into the chaos difficulty levels. But the mechanics of the boss were complex enough to be interesting and entertaining. Alright, guys, gather up. And let's charge in. The one in there is one of the more advanced mobs. That one has a couple of ranged spell attacks. He can sit there and constantly stun you and poison the hell out of you if he wants to. Not overly difficult to deal with, even with mobs of differing types. They can get dangerous when you get 2 or 3 of them at once, because they can essentially continually stun lock you. So you'll have to use special abilities to get out and actually take one of them down to open up a hole in their sequence, and then you can start pulling them apart. And shoo out of the way. So as I was saying, the boss was relatively complex and definitely interesting and fun to fight. I was going to actually put that up, but it is tied directly to the storyline, and I do not particularly want to have any spoilers in this video, so it's nice and spoiler-free for everybody involved. So, I'm just looking for a big enough group here to actually warrant using my God tier ability on. As you level through the game, you obviously get new skills, which we'll go into in just a moment, but once you get to a certain point, you actually get the attention of the gods themselves, and you get access to a new skill tree, which you can spend points in exactly as you wish to get access to various abilities. Some of these abilities are passive, and basically increase your base level stats, increase your armor, increase your health, and that is a level. Thank you very much. Essentially increasing your character's stats at the base level before gear is applied, which is all good. These abilities are also incredibly powerful. They're extremely expensive to activate, but are some of the most powerful abilities you can come across in the game. this should be good enough. Kill everything. Now, as well as using a lot of energy to activate, these have a relatively long cooldown, but if you get into trouble, or you're fighting a particularly powerful enemy, popping these abilities can be the difference between successfully managing to take down the mob, or finding yourself dying and having to read your entire game. Go. And nice. So, next up we have the High Elf Mage, who is, to put it bluntly, batshit insane. So, taking care of these guys, a little bit of Dragon's Breath. Alright, so mechanically the Mage works exactly the same way as the Warrior does. You have a basic set of attacks that generate energy, and you have a series of more advanced attacks that do a hell of a lot more power but consume energy. The Mage, however, feels like he has a much wider range of abilities, largely because a big part of the Warrior's build is his own durability. And we'll just incinerate all of these guys. There we go. Yeah, overall they have exactly the same number of abilities in between them, just more of them feel useful for the Mage, and they give you a wider range of options. This build here, I've gone for largely directed AoE attacks, with 2 energy gaining abilities. The first is Arcane Spark, which is this one right here. And the second is your default basic attack, which is a fireball that explodes and does AoE fire damage when it detonates, which is actually really high damage and very useful for directing on single point targets, such as bosses that have high health. I'm going to burn them all down and out of energy, so we'll spark a little bit now to get our energy back up. You can see the sphere to the bottom right hand corner. The spark itself, basic attack, although this is the second level of it, the more advanced level, actually does reasonable amounts of damage anyway, and it doesn't cost anything to use it, which is useful, although it does have a couple of glitches. Occasionally it will get stuck on the environment, so you'll point the mouse cursor on part of the screen you want to hit with Arcane Spark, and you can sort of see it a little bit here. Just trying to trigger it off for you. Where is it? We can get it in here. There we go. Right there. So I'm pointing next to the Mage, but instead he's shooting the wall. Move it away. And there it is. Switches straight to the wall. This can happen at the most inconvenient of times. I'd actually be using this as my standard attack for building energy. And there we go. All over the rest of the room. And he won't turn. I'd be using this as my standard attack, except this little glitch prevents it from being reliable. There are times when, if the enemy are in the wrong spot, you just cannot hit them with this attack due to this targeting bug. But it's still in beta, so hopefully it'll be fixed before release. Now, the Mage is, of course, squishy in comparison to the Warrior. Much lower health pool, much lower armor pool, but it does make up for it in having a much higher energy pool and much higher energy regeneration, so he can use more of his advanced spells more often. And he does make up for it in mobility as well. One of his other spells is the Teleport, that allows him to teleport from his current location to the location of the mouse cursor on the screen instantly. It does have a cooldown associated with it, which is relatively long, so you can't really abuse it. Torch everyone here, although it looks like I've pulled the entire room. There we go, teleport out of the way. And a couple of fireballs to finish that off. But yeah, that's the advantages of the Mage. A hell of a lot more power in order to actually use your abilities, and a much higher mobility than the Warrior. Not to mention that all of his abilities do significantly more damage and can hit multiple targets at range all at once. With attacks like Dragon's Breath, leaving a fire-based dot on anything that you hit, so you continue doing burning damage even after you've stopped using it. But again, it's a really fun class to play. I've had a lot of fun. I probably enjoy the Mage more than I do the Warrior, to be honest, which is actually odd. Generally, outside of your pet classes, so say the Necromancer or the Witch Doctor in Diablo 3, I tend to gravitate more towards the Warrior classes than Spellcasters in most of my ARPGs, but the Mage here is a hell of a lot of fun. I'd love to be able to tell you more about the Dwarf and the Wood Elf Archer, but it, along with a couple of other abilities inside of the game, are currently locked, such as the ability to bless weapons, which as far as I can tell is much like an enchantment system. And again, like the Warrior, the only combination of weapons you can get is the Staff and the Sword, which is what you see me using. I have no idea whether or not any new weapons combinations will be available as the game progresses, but I'm hoping there will be, and it's just that the loot tables are locked during beta, as variety is kind of an important part with these games, and if you're restricted to only using a set combination of gear, well, that's really going to hit the longevity of the game in the long run, which would be a real shame, because this is a hell of a lot of fun. Okay, so we've collected a couple of items here, so we can quickly have a look at the item system, the inventory, and of course the skills system. So, the items, massive ring around the outside, each icon corresponds to whatever you want to equip. It's pretty straightforward, to be perfectly honest. Now, I don't like how the inventory here is laid out. Everything with an E on it is what is currently equipped. Anything that doesn't have an E on it is something that you have picked up. The stars indicate it's something that you've picked up recently. Now, there is a couple of problems in here. One, it doesn't really give a good definition between what items you currently have equipped and which ones you don't. I would like to see that laid out a little bit better, although, again, I can sort of understand the console nature of the design. Makes it much easier to navigate the inventory with a controller. Still, it's not ideal. The second problem is in some of the way the stats are displayed. So, for example, as you can see at the moment, well, there's actually a bug, so the ring is being shown where the staff should be. There we go. Currently, I have... Well, I'm actually, yeah, it's displaying the wrong one again there too. No, currently I have that one equipped. So, this one here, 29 critical damage chance, 13 critical damage, 150 health, 959 maximum health. That's the stats of the staff that I currently have equipped. If we were to go over, say, this blue staff, which is a straight up downgrade, and we can see that, you can see it's only got 3 bonus bonus stats listed rather than the 4. Because it only lists what the item has, and it doesn't list what the item that you have already equipped has when you mouse over, if you want to check the stats between the two, you need to go between the two items and confirm everything yourself. You don't have the option to just mouse over one, or controller over one, depending on what platform you're playing on, and be able to see the comparison between both items. You're going to have to be navigating that yourself, which is something that was solved in these games years ago. And then it comes to equipping the items themselves. Now, you can just click on an item and drag and drop into the slot you want it to go, but it can be glitchy from time to time. Every now and again, you'll try and drag an item over, and it just won't go into the slot no matter what you do. Alternatively, all you've got to do is just right-click on the item, and it will automatically replace whatever item is currently equipped. So let's say I did want to use these braces. I don't. Let's just say I did. We'll right-click on those, and they swap in. Go back to the ones we've got. Those ones... Actually, 446 armor, 21 for a little bit of critical damage. Actually, they are better, so we will swap into those after all. We're definitely going to take that sword. So just right-clicking will swap the items over nice and clean. Again, I think this could use a little bit better design on PC. It's not fantastic, but it is serviceable. And the little glitches and bugs that it currently has, I'm assuming, will be fixed before the game goes into release. Now, skills is a little bit more interesting. We can actually play around a little bit here because I've got a few points up. Now, your skills are organized into a slot around the outside. These are your passive skills. You have the option to have 3 equipped at each time. These are your active skills, which correspond to your mouse buttons 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your keyboard. Now, with these, the way they work is each skill has a cost, which is shown on the right-hand or the left-hand side of the skill here in points, 4, 5, and 5, for example. Your basic skills are your energy generation skills. These cost nothing to equip in the basic form. The upgraded versions cost a little bit. the higher end version costs a little bit more, but they are still relatively cheap in comparison to your advanced skills, which is all your really cool attacks. Now, what you have down here, depending on your level, is a points pool that gives you X amount of points that you can afford to spend on your skills. The more you level up, the more points you get available. So you have to make the choice between spending all of your points on a wide variety of lesser costing skills or lower costing skills, or whether or not you just want to take one or two high value, extremely expensive but extremely powerful skills and really focus your character down one particular role. And I like this. It gives a lot of flexibility to the way this actually works. So for the moment I'm running the Advanced Missile and I have the Advanced Arcane Hail available, which are both advanced versions of the basic skills. I'm running the Blinding Light, which is a basic version which only costs 5 points, of an AoE explosive attack that centers on your character. I use it basically when we get caught into a large number of monsters. The detonation pushes everything back and away, gives you a little bit of clearance. We have the Teleport available, which is fantastic, and I'm using the upgraded version of the Blow of Fire, which is a fantastic flamethrower skill. Now we have 8 points available, so I can potentially throw something else in here if I wanted to, or I could potentially get an upgrade. So what I'll do is we'll get rid of the basic version of Step Between Worlds, and we'll put up the superior version, which gives us a longer teleport range. And also causes a magical explosion when we reappear. Oh, I like that. Why didn't I have that equipped earlier? And now we're down to just 3 points, which isn't enough to equip any special skills. We could potentially put one of our more basic skills in if we wanted, but I've already got 2 of them. I don't actually need any more. So that's how that works, and it does give you a lot of options. You can customize your character for more focused pinpoint damage. You can focus on the skills that are more AoE orientated. Now, as you go down, you will get access to more advanced skills and large numbers of passive skills that will significantly change how your character operates. And then, of course, you will need to counter in the cost of these skills and the cost of the basic attacks that you want available and work out your combination. So you can play one character in a multitude of different ways. There is also the God skill tree. Once you've played far enough into the game, you will get access to this tree. Basically, it is the favor of the gods. As you collect items, the shards within the game, you'll be able to spend those shards in order to buy a large number of passive upgrades, as well as a number of god tier skills. Now, the cost varies depending on how far you want to get into the tree, and the direction you want to go, you start in the central point, is entirely up to you based on what skills you want available and what passive skills you're looking for. I've gone in this direction because I wanted access to Fortress of Willpower because it reduces damage by 10%, and I'm going to follow that path down. But again, this is an option that is entirely up to you on where you want to go, so you can further customize your character and make it unique each playthrough, depending on which direction you want to go in. As I understand it, in the long run, you will not have enough points to be able to fill out the entire tree, however, so you do need to make the choice on the directions you want to go. However, if you do want to reset and go down a different path, there is a big reset button at the bottom of the screen that you can use to fix that. So, anyways, ladies and gents, that is a first look at Warhammer Chaosbane. This little turd. It's a fantastic little game. There's a lot of it that is locked in the beta at this point, which is why this is not a review. This is just first impressions of the game. There's no point reviewing it until everything is actually available. But what's here is a hell of a lot of fun, and I have been enjoying playing it. I'm looking forward to seeing what the other characters have to offer, in particular the Archer. I've always been fond of the Archer classes. I was a Demon Hunter player in Diablo for the majority of it. But the Warrior and the Mage are a hell of a lot of fun, and I am enjoying playing around with them. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen in regards to gear, which, as I said, currently seems to be locked off, and how some of the upgrade systems for gear are going to work, such as enchantment systems, whether or not there's going to be any kind of socketing system. Just get... you bastard, you stunned me. Come on, fry his ass. There we go. I do like the knockback on that teleport. And there's an epic in there. Awesome. Yeah, the game does currently have an always online requirement. However, as I understand it, that is only for the beta, just for security reasons. Once the game goes into full release, you will not have to be online to play it at all. There is, of course, multiplayer. As I understand it, it's going to be 4-player co-op, so you'll be able to have you and 3 of your mates taking on all 4 of the character classes that are available in-game. And, of course, there is no auction house or anything along those lines, which is fantastic as well. And actually, on that note, the vendors and everything in-game are also currently locked, so we're not entirely sure exactly how those are going to work, and exactly what goods and items are going to be available in order to purchase. But, again, this is something that I think is probably related to the locked loot tables, and does strongly make me think that it's going to be a lot more like Diablo on release, where a multitude of gear can drop. Not all of it will be for your class, and you will use both your item cache and the stores in order to be able to transfer those items back and forth between your characters to gear everyone up to the level you want to gear up to. But yeah, overall, at the moment, it is a hell of a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. If you're into ARPGs, I fully recommend you take a look at this one. This one looks like it's coming along quite nicely. It's got a few bugs, but it's beta. Hopefully they'll be ironed out soon. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching. As always, remember to check the video description down below for links to my social media, my Discord, my Twitch, and so on. If you'd like to support the channel, links to my Patreon and to my Subscribestar are both available, depending on which platform you prefer to use yourself. And as always, remember to click that like button if you did, share and subscribe if you would like to see more, and until next time, take care. God, I love that spell.